2016. This is not the list any longer. It is the lexicon of Le Champion.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Chet-Plex Wrestling Podcast here on Spartan Stream. I'm Chris Sechrist alongside Andrew Mild, and Andrew, the table's a little naked here without the belt.
Yeah, that's why I said I don't know how I feel without the WWE World Heavyweight Championship in front of us.
But we got a good reason. That's because we're not talking WWE today. We're talking All Elite Wrestling, and more specifically, we're talking Dynamite in Indianapolis. Happened on Wednesday, November 20th, and
Wow.
we were able to go.
That was already 2 weeks ago.
I know.
Time flies by when you're having fun.
Oh, we would have had this out sooner, but getting close to finals week, it's been a pretty stressful couple weeks. But we're able to get a night in to do this.
Talking wrestling is a very good stress reliever. Everyone should do it.
Yes.
And watching people get body slammed also helps.
Definitely. But yeah, we're talking AEW Dynamite in Indianapolis at the Indiana Farmers Coliseum there at the fairgrounds, and I gotta say it was a pretty fun night. But
It was so fun.
yeah, and this is going to be a special two-part episode. This part number one here is going to be on just wrestling, the wrestling culture, fan culture, then getting a little bit in specifics of AEW on why fans like AEW. But yeah, really this is just kind of looking at fan culture in the wrestling industry. So, I mean, we can just dive right in. I mean, yeah, AEW has done a lot in the very short time that they've been a brand. I remember it was January this year, that almost a year ago, that they announced AEW, and you had All In pay-per-view, and you had all the pay-per-views after that, and then in October you get AEW Dynamite, and I mean it's been a hit so far.
Yeah, it has been. I think the best part about this show, it's almost like the shadow of WWE, where it's like it's more creative in my opinion. Like in the couple of episodes that I've watched, even the one we went to, it's like, okay, they are really creative in how they do their stuff, and that's why I think that it pulls in a lot of fans. It's because like they get so sick of the PG era with WWE, and most of the people that attend these shows grew up in the Attitude Era, so they're used to like the cursing and the flipping the people off and telling people what DX would always say. I don't know if I can say that on the podcast, but now like nowadays it's almost cookie cutter and it's boring. Like AEW, it's different. Every segment is different. It just pulls you into the show.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that kind of I've always keep going back to is that like for me AEW just has these WCW vibes.
That too.
I mean, and case in point, coming up in a couple of weeks, they've got Bash at the Beach. That's going to be a 9-day event. I mean, it's crazy, and I even saw they're trying to trademark several WCW stuff as well. So
why not?
Yeah,
it's kind of like the First Order in Star Wars, rising up from the ashes of the Empire.
Yeah, but I mean, so far I think AEW has done a very good job, and I mean they've got a following. They've got a really good following.
Well, once you play the intro of how it opens up, you'll see
that
the following is like the people, like I said, are bored of the WWE and ready for something new, something fresh, something they can be like, okay, I'm going to get behind this and push it. And maybe the change to WWE, we're not sure. But AEW is its own thing, and it's beautiful so far. But how's it going to go over time?
Yeah.
When they got new wrestlers coming in, how are they going to adapt with the new talent? Like is there going to be an abundance of talent, or is there going to be a lack of talent? Because that's what happened with WCW.
Yep.
At first it was great, and then slowly as like the talent got worse and they didn't know how to use it correctly, it fell apart. Will AEW be able to follow that, or are they going to be a good steep competition for the World Wrestling Entertainment?
And I mean, AEW's they're on a roll here, but like you said, it's going to be a question of whether or not they can keep that ball rolling, especially up against NXT on Wednesday nights.
Yeah, the Wednesday Night Wars is real.
But yeah, I mean, and we talked to a couple fans at the event, get their opinion of it as far as AEW and just wrestling culture itself. My
favorite part about the two interviews is the first guy we interviewed is a referee on the weekends.
Yeah.
That was really cool. And he said that he has a bunch of buddies, I think, that are starting to work with AEW. They're starting to get into it. So he's hoping maybe he'll be following in their footsteps. But it was really cool to meet like a wrestler. I mean, like a referee.
Right.
So
yeah, it's pretty cool. But so yeah, we'll show you these, talk with these two guys, and then we'll talk about what they said. Is this your first wrestling show?
No.
No. What other shows have you been to?
Well, almost every Saturday I'm at a wrestling show because that's what I do on the weekends. I'm a referee.
All right, and that's awesome. What do you like about AEW?
You know what? I haven't gained an opinion yet for it. It's cool that there is some competition now because competition's always good. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the Monday Night Wars, so I remember how cool that was being 6 or 7 flipping through the channels, so it's kind of the same feeling. I guess that's about it.
All right, and so what do you watch on Wednesday nights? Is it NXT or AEW? What's your preference?
It comes down to, I love capturing the old Monday Night Wars feel, so I like flipping back and forth. That's what I do. Now, they make it tougher this time around because they do the picture-in-picture, which is kind of tough. But I watch it from a different aspect or a different lens, if you will, because being part of the wrestling world, I don't necessarily watch it for, I don't know, I'm not trying to sound condescending, but yeah, I watch it for a different aspect. So I enjoy watching both.
All right. What are your thoughts on the wrestling industry as a whole now with, specifically AEW coming in, but just as the industry as a whole, specifically in the past couple of years, how do you feel the industry is going?
I think it's awesome. It gives a plenty opportunity for guys like myself and guys that I know that wrestle like 3 to 4 times a week. I have friends that are talking to AEW. NWA is also reaching out to people with their stuff, so they're trying to gain people from there. So in a whole, the wrestling business in itself, I think we're witnessing a facelift. It's not one promotion anymore that can make a platform for a bunch of different wrestlers. Now we have multiple, and I've said this for a couple years now when WCPW was a thing. I said if somebody could filter some more money into something like WCPW, and NWA is doing it, you could have another great platform just using the tools that you have.
All right, and what makes AEW stand out, above any other promotion you've seen so far?
I think they are willing to try anything. I think they have an idea of where they want to go, but they're not afraid to step out just a little bit over the line that they see their goal, but they're willing to, step outside of the box and create something different because they're competing against WWE on Wednesday nights, Wednesday Night Wars, if you will. They have to do something that captures the audience, especially when it comes down to your casual viewer. WWE captures the casual. AEW, on the other hand, captures more of the hardcore, more of the indie vibe. So, with that being said, they might find a niche in a market that, or niche, or however you want to say it, in a market that might not be tapped yet.
And lastly, why are you a wrestling fan?
My uncle, almost 25 years ago, introduced me to professional wrestling, and here I am at 30 years old. I'm involved with professional wrestling. I'm going to a cool wrestling event in a city that's 2 hours from where I live, so, I love it.
All right, thank you for talking with us.
Absolutely, thank you guys.
First question, is this your first wrestling show?
No, I've been to thousands of wrestling shows throughout the years. First AEW show.
What kind of other shows have you been to?
Oh, a ton of WWE shows, a ton of independent shows. I lived in Japan for a while, so I used to go to New Japan and Stardom and all those shows over there too.
All right, cool. And what do you watch on Wednesday nights, NXT or AEW?
Ooh, I watch them both, but I watch AEW live and I watch NXT taped.
All right. And what do you like about AEW?
It's a different product. It's got a different edge to it. It's got a different feel and different vibe. Like everyone there's on the show to prove a point, right? A lot of the guys aren't nearly as known, so it's a little more off the wall.
All right. And what are your thoughts on the wrestling industry right now as a whole? Considering the competition on Wednesday nights, considering New Japan, all these other promotions coming out. How do you feel the wrestling industry right now is doing?
I think it's a great time to be a fan because you have so many options. And if there's not something you like on TNT, you flip to USA or you download New Japan World or, all the companies with streaming services. As far as the caliber of the in-ring product, I don't think it's necessarily at the top of its game, but I think to be a fan, it's an amazing time.
All right. And lastly, why are you a wrestling fan?
It's a perfect art, man. There's nothing like it. It's a stage show, it's a competition, it's athleticism, it's everything rolled into one. So, what's not to like? It's sports, but with better drama.
All right. Well, thank you for talking with us.
Yeah, thanks, man.
So, as you can see, AEW and just wrestling industry as a whole, people are liking it right now.
Oh yeah, and I have to agree with the second Jake said. I think that's what his name was. Is that the talent's not at its top of its game? I think because there's so many leagues. There's a slide on here you have with all the different leagues. It's almost feel like it might be a little saturated,
right?
Because you have to have so many guys. Like they may have to speed up their development. But I do agree, it's a great time to be a fan. Like. I can just picture you in your room with 2 TVs, one with AEW on and then one with NXT on at the same time.
I've done that.
Exactly. I can see that. And then you have Monday Night Raw and then Friday Night SmackDown and some NXT takeovers on Saturdays on pay-per-view times. And then
you got New Japan on Access TV. You got Impact on Access. You got Women of Wrestling on Access. You got MLW. I forget what channel they're on. I know I don't get it. I wish I did, but then you got I know around here on Fox 28 out of South Bend does Ring of Honor on Friday nights as well.
Okay.
I think around 11. So, wrestling, plenty places to find it, plenty places to watch it. But I definitely agree. The product may not be great, but we've got a lot of product to choose from.
That's the thing. Like, you may not all be great, but you have so many options. It's more like the question of quality over quantity.
Yeah.
That's the question you get asked yourself. But I think that's when you have to be selective on what you watch. Like you have to pick, okay, do I want to watch this match or this match that's coming on? That's what we have to come down to.
Yeah, and hopefully with all these different promotions, maybe they're gonna have to start thinking, okay, we need to one up each other, and eventually, product's just gonna get better and better and better.
Well, also a big thing is now that Chris Jericho, like he brings in attention.
Oh yeah,
he draws in so much heat because he's a great heel.
Yeah.
Probably one of the greatest heels of all time. He's gonna get like a big contract from competing brands, like AEW. When AEW got him a big contract again, join them. WWE might offer him a big contract when he becomes a free agent again. They spent a lot of money on John Morrison for him to come back. They're gonna spend as much money as they can to bring in as much talent and bring in the fans.
Oh, definitely.
Because it's an all-out war right now on the wrestling field.
But yeah, both of them said it. It's a great time to be a wrestling fan.
Yeah. And then, like, you have your local shows if you're really into it. And that guy was a referee, so he's really into it, that he wants to be a part of it and wants to be in the ring with the guys.
Yeah, and one of the questions we asked was, like, why are you a fan of wrestling? And,
That's a good question, too.
Yeah. As the other thing,
you got me thinking about it now. And I have to agree with what Jake said. It's the perfect arm.
Yeah.
It's sports with better drama, basically. Like, it's a better build-up, and you can control what the story's going to be like. So, like, when you get to that big championship match, it's like, okay, this is going to be an all-out war because, I don't know, like something happened between the two, and we saw it. They build up the heat, and you just get drawn into it that you forget that it is staged.
Yep.
That's the thing. Like, you want the match to be so good you forget it's staged.
And even then, just the ability to go out there and just do that. It's crazy.
I know on the team we've never talked about like how the type of people that are like, oh, it's fake. I don't think getting body slammed is fake.
Yeah,
it's
like
not,
my parents are ones. They're like, man, why you watch this fake stuff? And I'm like, you drop 20 foot off a cell through 2 tables and tell me it's fake. It's an art form.
Well,
it's
an art form. Like it's basically acting. Like you watch movies, right? You watch movies where they have except they don't actually get hit in the movies. Like right before this podcast, we watched the Black Widow trailer. Do you really think Scarlett Johansson got hit once during that movie?
Probably not.
Probably not. But you see Becky Lynch or what's the name of Adam Cole's girlfriend that we saw wrestle?
Britt Baker.
Brett Baker got hit. They get so sore and so beat up. I think one of the best movies that people that like say wrestling is fake should watch The Wrestler itself.
Yep.
The movie with Mickey Rourke. You don't understand how intense it is until you watch that movie. Mm-hmm. And I have a better appreciation for wrestling after watching that movie.
I get my appreciation for wrestling grew after seeing like the backstage part of it.
Yes.
I mean, like, yeah, it's an awesome product up front, but when you get backstage, I mean, you see how real it is.
Oh yeah, like the Kenny Omega, John Moxley match that happened a couple weeks ago. They were going through glass.
Yeah.
And they get slammed onto wood. That's not fun.
Yeah.
But they do it because they love wrestling. They love doing what they do.
Like the passion is there.
Oh yeah,
and
you have to.
It's amazing.
You have to be insane to be body slammed onto a bunch of what kind of wood do you think that was? Like 4x4s?
Probably just 2x4s.
2x4s down there? No, it's not happening. No. But it's what they do.
And so another thing, I mean, we asked them just, their opinions on the wrestling industry as a whole. And, I mean, we kind of touched on it a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, there's so much quantity of wrestling. While the quality may not be as good, the quantity is there.
Oh, yeah. That's 8 shows sitting right there.
Yeah.
Then there's a bunch of other, like, I know I mentioned CZW.
CZW.
And there's a bunch more. You probably list on top of your head.
There's so many. And, I mean, those are just, like, the major ones on television that, that I know of or that I've seen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's just so many others just all over the place. And, like, professional wrestling, I think, like, the fans that are like, the people who are going into wrestling now are very different than the fans who back in, like, the 80s and 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's a very different breed.
Well, like, in the 80s and 90s, it was more of a campy. Is that the word I'm looking for? It's kind of like, okay, you ever watched the 1960s Batman? Mm-hmm. That's what it's kind of like with, like, Hulk Hogan and stuff.
Yep.
But, like, after, like, we hit, like, the Attitude Era is, like, when I think we saw true fans.
Yeah.
Because it was more hardcore. And, like, and I think, like, that's around the time we started developing, like, lifelong fans. Like, the first guy we interviewed, he said, I remember watching the Monday Night Wars with Raw and, what do they call it? Monday Night Nitro.
Yep.
And he said that he would flip between the channels. And he saw that feeling. Like, that's an attachment to him. Because that's what he grew up doing. And like, my cousin was the same way. He was born in 96. So he got, like, the back half of it. So, yeah, I have to agree.
Yeah, I mean, just for me, I mean, I have to agree with them. I mean, it's a great time to be a fan.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean,
you can't say that enough.
You look, I mean, you got All Elite, WWE, NXT, New Japan, Ring of Honor, Impact, Women of Wrestling, and Major League Wrestling. I mean, there's just so many options out there to watch, and it's so accessible, too.
Oh, yeah. Well, because of all the access of technology.
Yep.
That's the first step. And even, like, the wrestlers are a lot different today than it was back in the 80s and 90s. Because I believe they're a lot more fit, and because of access to technology, like I said, they can train better and be better athletes, and put on better shows because they'll be able to do more than like Hulk Hogan. Like when someone was able to body slam Andre the Giant, that was a huge thing.
Yeah,
you can probably list like more than 10 guys that can probably body slam Andre the Giant now that are all in these leagues.
I mean, you think back to one of the Andre the Giant Battle Royals, you had Cesaro body slam Big Show out of the ring. I mean, like, they build it up as such a huge deal, but then it's happened. And so now it's like, okay, what's the next thing?
Right.
And, I mean, that's kind of where...
Like, you body slam Andre the Giant. Then you have the TLC matches. Then you have the Money in the Bank matches.
Like, it's evolved,
right.
And it's still evolving. And with that comes more fans newer fans, but yet you still get those same fans who are getting a
Right.
new product, who are staying because they're getting
But
new stuff.
that's like with any sport you ever
Yeah.
watch. You ever watch baseball from back when I first started till now? It's a much different game. Basketball is the most recent one, like
Yep.
with wrestling, because the 3-pointers have gone up. It's a much different game than it was 10 years ago. That's the beauty about sports is it's not consistent. It's not cookie cutter, and I think that's what WWE forgot.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I forget, like you watch WWE and you're like, this is boring. That's what AEW is doing the best of, is realizing it's an evolving sport.
Yep.
We need to go with the evolving. And like that's what The Undertaker was the best at doing.
Yeah.
And I think WWE needs to take a lesson from The Undertaker if they want to be back up there with AEW, because right now AEW is beating them bad. It's bad right now. And AEW is just, like I said, just great at being creative and adapting to the sport.
Yeah, I mean it's fun to watch all these things unfold. It's fun to be a fan, sit back and watch. It's even more fun that you and me get to sit here and talk about it. I think that's probably one of the best parts
Yeah.
about it.
And then people get to listen to us talk about it.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean it's pretty exciting. AEW was really fun. We're gonna talk about
You made a
that.
fan out of me in AEW. You, like,
Yeah.
You don't realize.
You weren't so sure about it at first, but now I think
You don't-
you're all in.
You don't realize how close I was to
Pun
buying a
intended.
shirt.
Yeah.
I was very close. This close. I didn't crack though.
I gave in, man. Got me the Chris Jericho Le Champion.
Le Champion. Can we come with a word for like Chet-Plex with Le Chet-Plex?
Le Chet-Plex.
Le Chet-Plex.
Le Chet-Plexion. Something like that. I don't know.
We'll come up with something. We
Come
have,
up with something, yeah.
we have more time.
Oh, yeah. After finals week, we'll come
After
up with something.
finals, yeah.
Yeah.
When my brain's not fried.
But yeah, I mean, it was a pretty fun experience talking to those guys, getting their intake. Because, you know, I mean, really, I mean, we just kind of bounce ideas off each other. And
Yeah.
with Mario, and, there's really not many other people around campus that we know of that really are into this we are.
Well, it's because it's the idea that people are saying it's fake. So it's like, oh, well, I don't want to watch it then.
Yeah.
But like I know what, I was watching Survivor Series with one of my suite mates, and we were just having a great time.
Yeah.
We were having a great time.
I think if people actually sit and watch it, they can
Well,
see
Nate-
what's
Nate
good
even-
about it.
Nate even-
Yeah, Nate, Nate's a good example.
Yeah.
He had, didn't have high expectations going in.
Oh, no, he
But after we showed him those 3 matches, I mean, he was in for it. He was
Yeah.
like, all right. you
Yeah,
know?
it's one of those things you have to find time for.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's almost like a social thing. I don't know why it's like that, where it's like you can't be a wrestling fan because it's not a real sport. I don't know. It's one of like I don't understand it
Yeah.
because like growing up I loved it and I still love it. It's just I don't really talk to anyone about it besides you and a handful of other people because wrestling is not popular for some reason.
But hey, I
Okay.
mean, it may not be popular mainstream, but it's very popular within its culture.
Oh, it is. Like if you are you're either a diehard wrestling fan or you're just not.
Because I mean, like you consider there's a huge pop culture, and you can consider wrestling being a part of pop culture, but it's so very different.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you got your Marvel fans over here. They're very different from the wrestling fans.
Yeah.
Even though you could categorize them all as pop culture, just within that broad category, you've got so many different cultures within that. And so, yeah, I mean, you have, Marvel over here,
Star Wars is up
Star
there.
Wars, your Disney fans, but then just wrestling itself is its own pod of just
Oh, yeah.
awesomeness.
Of pain and
Pain
cheering.
and
Yeah. All that fun stuff.
emotions.
The emotions is a good one. That's
Yeah.
a good word for wrestling. Especially when you really buy into a wrestler like Becky Lynch. Once you buy into them, you're like, okay, I'm in. And that's what I am with Jon Moxley. Like, I
Yeah.
loved him as Dean Ambrose, but like I love him more as Jon Moxley. And I cannot wait to see him beat Jericho for the AEW World Championship. Calling it now on this show.
Might be coming one day.
Hey, he showed up on the last show.
Yeah, that's
In
true.
Chicago.
That's true.
I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's a good time to be a fan. We said it multiple times already, and it's pretty exciting. It was really fun to be at AEW, really fun to talk with those guys and just experience it all. And
I know, like, when Mario sent us, he was like, you have to be professional.
Yeah.
Because the people around you don't know. And it was so hard. It was so hard not to get into it.
Yep.
There was a couple of times I would be clapping and I have to stop myself because it just pulls you in when you're there.
Yep.
And when you're watching it, it just pulls you in.
You get immersed.
You get immersed into the story.
Yeah, it's pretty fun, exciting. So yeah, I think I'll be doing it here for this part number 1.
I cannot wait for part 2 and just talking about the show itself.
So yeah, if you want to check out for part number 2, as it's gonna be a fun one. We're gonna talk about the show itself, talk about our personal experiences with it, and it's gonna be fun. So that's the end of part 1 of Chet-Plex Goes to AEW Dynamite. For Andrew Mount, I'm Chris Seekers. Thank you for listening. Be sure to watch part 2. We'll see you next time.